It's like I'm not pressing down. Oh no. Oh yeah.
You almost made a circuit. That was good. We'll get there.
Welcome to the shop. Today, we're going to talk about how to teach somebody to fly. There's a lot of steps involved in that, and I'm going to try to go through all of those steps. Now, again, this is going to be a multi-part video because I think there is a lot to this, from the radios you use to the planes you use, the coaching that you present to the new student, and so on and so forth. My channel is built around helping, right? Helping people get better at the hobby. And this is no different. I'm hoping that many of you who have never taught someone have that opportunity to teach them, and you can show them easily and safely, without destroying an airplane, how to do that so they can have fun. And frankly, let's get more people sucked into this hobby buying airplanes. It's good for everybody, right? So, first step, how to set up a radio, how to set up the Buddy Box with the Spektrum system. So I'm going to go through the details of that, the equipment I use, and how to set that up from an instructor-student perspective, and how it works. It's very simple. It's the simplest thing in the world. So I'm going to go through that. Then I'm going to go through more, right, other pieces of equipment, the planes that I use, the techniques that I might use. How do I go through the whole process of coaching them through flying a circuit, a simple circuit? Whether they are drone pilot, helicopter, they spent a ton of time on a simulator, or they bought some $1.98, E-Sheen plane and they were having fun, but they want to fly bigger. All of those are different levels, and those students are going to think differently. Plus, let's be honest, there's some folks that just get it. It clicks and they're flying. Others, not so much, and they need a little helping and a lot of positive reinforcement to stay on course. Anyway, I'm going to get into all that. But first, look, if you have a question, leave a comment. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button. Helps me out, helps me know that I'm delivering the right content through my channel. All right, stick around. Setting up a Buddy Box, very simple. It depends how you want to do it. For me, I want to set it up as simple as possible. So I'm at the field, and if there's a plane that I've never Buddy Boxed before, somebody wants to fly it, I can easily set it up so they can have at least those 4 channels, right? Aileron, elevator, rudder, and throttle. That's all I'm going to let them have. I'm also going to set up a switch on mine, which enables me to turn on buddy mode. And the way it's set up is, if I just touch one of my sticks, just nudge it a little, it's going to come back to me. It's going to come back to the instructor. But then there's also a switch that I'll have to reset. Let me go through the process. If you're using something like a DX6 or something that you need to program a model, you need to have a blank model. In this case, I name it trainer. So anytime I'm using a trainer plane, I use this model and then bind this during this process that I'm about ready to show you here. I'm going to use this, but I'll go through this one as well after I set this one up. It's not a big deal. Pretty simple process. So anyway, stick around. Let me show you that process. All right, first things first. The model I want to use, in this case, my trainer plane is a Ranger 1800. I open up that model here. First thing we're going to do is come down to System Setup. System Setup, we're going to go to Trainer. I'm going to go to Wireless Trainer. And I want it to say Pilot Link Instructor. So as you go here, there's a couple mods. There's Standard Instructor, Pilot Link Instructor, FPV. We're not going to get into all that. Pilot Link Instructor is what you want to do. Then we're going to come down here to the switch. And I'm going to click select, for me, E. You can select whatever switch you want. That's one I go with. And I want it to have Master Override active. Master Override active means I don't have to mess with a switch to flip it back to me. I just hit one of my anything. I hit any control, and now it's back in the instructor mode. Now, after we've done that, we need to get into bind mode. Just like binding a receiver, we're going to go through the same process. We're going to go with this. Let's go with this guy, this DXS. inexpensive thing that you can pretty much get for free at swap meets where people are almost giving them away because they came with other planes. So we're going to hit bind. I'm going to press the bind button and hold, turn it on, and bind complete. Now that radio is set up as a trainer to this. Here's the thing, those are now bound. This is bound. It's not going to now bind to your little Habu or apprentice. You're now bound to here. It's like a receiver. This is now like a receiver. Same thing with these guys. I've set these up the same way. You can bind them differently. This one's easier to bind up differently because you can scroll through the screens and go into bind mode for trainer. This guy, you literally can have one of those little, little cubs, everything in the box, ready to go for that person that shows up at the field, and you can bind this to here for trainer mode and use this as the trainer. So many different options, great solution if you're trying to help that person get into flying. All right, first things first, the model I want to use, in this case, my trainer plane is a Ranger 1800. I open up that model here, right? Then I'm going to go through a process. I'm going to get into system setup.
System idle.
I'm going to get into trainer, wireless trainer, set up with pilot link instructor, which is absolutely what I want. And I've already done this a couple times. So it's already set up for switch E and master override is active. So I'm going to go to bind.
Binding.
And I'm going to go here. I've opened up trainer. This is my blank model that I use for setting up a trainer plane. System setup, yes. And I'm going to go to bind, just like you would bind a receiver.
Bind complete. Telemetry. Bind complete.
All right, there we go. And so the way it's now set up is when I flip this switch,
Student has control.
as soon as I move the stick,
Instructor has control.
pretty cool system. All right, one thing I highly recommend, it's a must, right? You have to test this stuff. There's a couple things. When you set this, and this, I just set this up for this plane here. Okay, so now left, right, up, down, left, right. As soon as I flip the switch,
Student has control.
so student has control, left, right, up, down, and left, right. Double check that kind of stuff. The other thing that you'll notice is, right now I have the throttle cut on. Throttle doesn't work for the student. I'm controlling it, okay? So, and I can flip down and he's still, this doesn't have a throttle cut on this system here. It's all about here. Now here's the thing, if he's at that and I take that throttle cut off, that motor's gonna spin up. So you gotta be careful with that. Make sure when you're testing, the student has all the way down. Now I'm gonna take control real quick and I'm gonna test the motor. Okay, that works. I'm going to flip it to the student. Now remember, throttle cut is down.
Student has control.
Okay, that's one thing. Test the controls, test the motor, be careful of that. Now when you're up in the air and you give the student control,
Instructor has control.
when you give the student control, they need to have that throttle at a decent, let's say half throttle when you give it to them. So you might mention to them before you give it to them, hey, bump up to half throttle or a little above half throttle type of thing. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is when you're setting all of this up, don't have your airplane plugged in. Because what's going to happen is it's going to get confused on which radio it needs to bind to initially. Right? So there's some weird things that happen if you have the plane plugged in and you're doing this setting up your trainer. Don't have the plane plugged in. Otherwise, it won't work and it causes a big hassle. Anyway, just those 3 tips. Check the controls, check the throttle, set the throttle when you're up in the air at half, and then the other is when you're setting this up, don't have the plane plugged in. All right, good luck. If you have any questions, let me know.